Ah yes, Devil May Cry. One of the biggest early hits on the PlayStation 2, and a game that showed just how awesome Capcom can be. Originally beginning life as an early version of Resident Evil 4, Capcom wisely chose to make it a separate IP. It was a combination between a beat-em-up and a classic survival horror Resident Evil title. But unlike Resident Evil, which taught you to be careful with ammunition and to try avoiding conflict when possible, Devil May Cry gave you a big-ass sword, infinite ammo, and a whole lot of style, and then told you to go beat the crap out of everything you could. With one small problem. The enemies were not pushovers. One of the things that immediately stuck with players was that Devil May Cry was hard. But we're not here to talk about Devil May Cry, or its triple stylish third and fourth games.
On your prime day, you ugly sack of shit.
And definitely not that one. No, instead we're going to talk about the black sheep of the series. The rather infamous Devil May Cry 2. Is this game really worth the hate it gets? Is it truly an irredeemable blight on the face of the franchise? Let's take a look. The game begins with a quick backstory of Dante's father, Sparda. Sparda was a legendary Dark Knight, a demon who rose up and betrayed his own kind to defend humans. Of course, this didn't exactly gel well with the rest of the demons, so Sparda cut off their path into the human world. To a degree anyway, as demons still exist on our side for whatever reason. Granted, this doesn't say much about the guy, and it's mostly used to introduce us to our main characters, the lovely Lucia, a woman from the mysterious Vie de Marley, probably said that wrong, and
Dante.
Good lord, that was an awesome way to enter the game. So, it turns out Lucia is trying to obtain a bunch of MacGuffins called the Arcana, which are also being sought out by a businessman named Arius, who wants to use them to rule over the world.
Of course!
Arius intends on using the Arcana to gain the power of Argosax the Chaos. What a name. Lucia was looking for Dante in order to get his help, and in exchange, Lucia's mother, Matiere, will tell Dante of his father, whom she once fought alongside.
You have arrived, son of Sparta.
You knew him?
Oh, yes.
While Dante hunts for the other Arcana, Lucia confronts Arius, who reveals that she is actually a manufactured being named Kai, and that her entire purpose is to subjugate humans.
It appears that the defect is back.
Defect?
Even you will betray your upbringing and turn on the humans.
Arius warps her away, and Lucia becomes conflicted.
I was created?
She soon meets up with Dante, whom she asks to take the collected Arcana
Bring
back
this
to
Mathieu for
Matiere.
me. Please. I've got something that I need to take care of.
She then goes to face off against Arius again, but loses to him. Dante shows up and gives the Arcana to Arius, unimpressed by them,
That's just a piece of crap.
and proceeds to fight him.
But your swan song will.
Arius doesn't get very far, but tries to kill Lucia during the fight. Dante, being Dante, rescues her in a pretty awesome scene.
Don't worry. I've got you.
And when she asks why he bothered to save her, he replies,
Every hero has a weakness.
The duo split up to open the way back to face Arius. Here, Dante, of course, confronts Arius, and it's here I have to address one of the main criticisms of this game. Dante himself. Many people were less than happy the previous smart-mouthed smartass was strangely almost silent in this game, having none of his previous charm. I'm going to call bullshit on this because while Dante is much less talkative, he's definitely a smartass in this game. Dante messes with Arius before this fight by revealing one of the Arcana he gave him earlier was actually just his lucky coin.
What? What's going on?
Is there a problem?
You! Is that the medallion? You switched them?
A false coin for a false god.
Dante may not say much, but he's got quite a few notable snarks, including my personal favorite after he beats the shit out of Arius.
My dream! My life! I was going to be the king of this world!
King? Yeah. Here's your crown.
God damn, that was pure badass and you know it. Even though Dante is quieter, I don't understand this broody personality a lot of people claim he has. Honestly, in some ways it almost makes it funnier when he does speak because it's almost always a one-liner. While I certainly prefer the more bombastic smartass version of him, his quiet but snarky self is still pretty enjoyable. After defeating Arius, Lucia tries to get Dante to kill her, fearing that she'll turn into a demon, just as Arius claimed. Of course, Dante spouts out the hokiest use of Devils Never Cry in the series, complete with a dorky echo.
No. Devils never cry.
Yeah, this series isn't exactly known for its quality writing, admittedly.
Fuck you!
Okay, it's not quite that bad. More like,
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
that one never gets old. Of course, even though Arius got his ass kicked, the portal to hell opens up, and it's up to one of them to stop it. Lucia feels it's better that she go, because she's expendable. Dante says to leave it up to chance and flips his coin for it. Again, gotta address some of the criticism thrown at the game's story here, namely the claims that Dante is out of character. His lucky coin, as it stands, is two-headed. In other words, the entire game, Dante has been trolling the hell out of everyone. I feel like the people who claim that it's not in character for him didn't actually realize it was two-headed. Or they never played Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, where Dante uses the same coin. This is exactly something Dante would do. Dante proceeds to hop into the portal to fight this thing. Yeah, he's a blob made out of the various bosses throughout the first game and this one. Of course, it's not that simple, and the boss transforms into this woman. Dude. Meanwhile, Lucia finds Arius isn't dead, and proceeds to fight him, proudly proclaiming,
Dante told me. Devils never cry!
Come out and show yourself, Mundus!
He too has a transformation, but unsurprisingly, she overpowers him and meets up with Matiere. And then she finds out that Dante was trolling her, discovering the coin he left her to hold on to is two-headed. Dante fights off the Despair embodied. Holy crap, what a name. And really? He's not in character, people? He just popped a cap in the very embodiment of Despair's ass with an honest to Sparta smug grin on his face. What more do you expect from Dante? Of course, there's the possibility that Dante is now trapped in hell. Unfazed, Dante goes on a motorcycle, where did he even get that from? And proclaims,
Yeah, let's go all the way to hell.
Sometime later, Lucia is seen waiting for Dante to return at his office, flipping his lucky coin. She depressingly says,
But Sparta did come back.
before hearing the familiar roar of a motorcycle, suggesting that Dante did indeed come back from his adventure. Story-wise, Devil May Cry 2 is admittedly not good. While the base of the plot is plenty fine, and damn if the characters don't have their charm, it feels like there's only pieces of a story here. The cutscenes are quite well done, however, and contrary to popular belief, the quieter Dante isn't devoid of humor, or that genuinely charismatic, likable personality. Of course, that's only one aspect of the game. Let's tackle the graphics next. From a graphics standpoint, it's actually pretty good looking. The graphics are extremely sharp and detailed, especially the characters. Dante in particular has some amazing animation, and I swear the character models actually look a little better than the ones in Devil May Cry 3. Now, before you condemn me and chase after me with pitchforks and torches, while the graphics are top-notch, the aesthetics are not. The characters look fine, and honestly I love Dante's design in this game. Lucia is also quite beautiful, and Arius, well, he's a goofy Heihachi-looking demon guy. The enemies are alright. Some of them are kinda neat, looking like gnarled skin melded with rusted metal, but a lot of them are also just plain silly. The final bosses do look quite good, however, and the Despair Embodied in particular has a certain unique, cool style to him. But the locations are so sparse, and there's a lot of brown. It's a shame considering the variety of the locations. But they're so unappealing to look at that it hurts the appearance, especially with such great character models and gorgeous animation. It lacks the creepy atmosphere of the first game, the twisted locales of the third, and the colorful variety of the fourth. The game's voice acting ranges from pretty good, Lucia and Matier for instance, to okay, Dante, to, well, when Arius isn't being completely nutter butters, he sounds basically fine. But late in the game, there's not a lot of it, and I can't tell if that's a good thing or a bad thing. The sound is also nice and clear, but frequently the gunfire will drown out everything else. There's also the weird whoosh sound that plays whenever Dante starts moving, and it's kinda distracting. I have no clue why he does this, but the music is a highlight, unsurprisingly. Capcom is pretty well known for having awesome music, and Devil May Cry 2 is no exception. Battle themes in particular sound spectacular, as it should be, and the opening theme is particularly memorable. Unfortunately, much like the sound, it's often drowned out by the blunt droning of the guns, especially during boss battles or anywhere with flying enemies. The issue is slightly alleviated for Lucia since she uses throwing knives, but then you have to listen to whip whip constantly, which also gets on one's nerves. Next is the content of the game, not the gameplay. We'll save that for last, as that's the part that matters most. Devil May Cry 2 is both somehow a small and massive game. It spans over the course of 31 missions, split between Dante and Lucia, who have 18 and 13 respectively. You can clear the game in about 2 to 2.5 hours per character, so it doesn't take long. Honestly, this is kinda nice, as they both have their own unique stories and stages, although they share quite a few. The game is also quite gracious with post-play goodies. Beating the game on normal unlocks that character's mission select and their first alternate costume. Beating it as both unlocks hard mode, and the now always present Bloody Palace survival mode. The costumes vary in quality. Dante gets this silly looking thing that I swear is the embarrassing uncle look he remarks on from the novel, but Lucia gets this nice looking number. Even better, these costumes show up during cutscenes. Well, better for Lucia anyway. Completing the game on hard nets Lucia another costume, and Dante unlocks... Holy shit, that's Trish. You get to play as Trish! Granted, she's a lot like Dante, at least at first glance. But what makes this even better is, Trish is playable in both scenarios. Unfortunately, she gets no cutscene model, it just plays the normal sequences, but it's still awesome. She even gets her own battle music, or at least it seems like it. It sounded like it was different, but maybe my ears misheard. And while I have yet to personally do this, completion of Must Die mode as Dante gets you the original Dante from the first game, right down to his voice and music. Lucia gets Secretary, a costume based off of Arias' mooks that seem to share their appearance with Lucia. I don't know if this is treated as her own character like Trish, or if she's just another costume for Lucia, unfortunately. And let's be honest, outside of the novelty of some of this, a person who dislikes this game probably won't care about these extras. But anyone who enjoys this game will have ass loads of additional content. Which brings up the last bit of this review, and by far the most important, the gameplay. How does it play? Well, first off are the controls. They actually respond quite well and feel fluid. As expected, you move with the left analog stick, slash with triangle, shoot with square, jump with X. You can also lock on with R1, and this time the game actually tells you who you're targeting. This is a really nice addition. You can also, again, switch targets with R3. You can also now switch guns with L2, a feature that would be carried over to Devil May Cry 3. The quick switch for Devil Arms from Devil May Cry 1, where you pressed L3, is no longer around, sadly. But that doesn't matter. More on that in a moment. So what does circle do? Circle is dodge. Yeah, this pissed off a lot of people. It's true you don't need a dedicated dodge button, as holding lock on and pressing jump worked well enough in the first game. That being said, the dodge itself is quite nice, allowing you to dodge in any direction instead of side to side. One of the gripes I have about the rest of the games is that you can't dodge back or forward. And sometimes when trying to dodge to the side, it may not recognize it as such, and you'll wind up jumping slightly backward, leading you to getting smacked. You can also see early ideas that would be implemented to Devil May Cry 3's style system. In particular, you can see an early take on Dante's twosome time ability, where when an enemy is close enough while you're shooting at his buddy, you can take aim at him with one of your guns and fire away, which is pretty great. There's also the wall run, which is as easy as pressing circle while running at a wall. It's not great, but it does look cool. Each of the three characters also play differently, at least to a degree. Dante isn't far removed from his original self, except his combos are done in a weird way. In the original, it was based on which way you were holding the analog stick and the timing of your swing. This would be carried over to Devil May Cry 3 and 4. Instead, DMC2 is based on the analog stick in the middle of your combo, which feels really wonky. This, of course, leads to a lot of people using a single solitary can combo, myself included, because I didn't even know about this until I'd already recorded the footage for this video. Another downside is the melee weapons are all the same. In Devil May Cry 1, while 3 of Dante's weapons were pretty similar, he also got a pair of gauntlets that completely changed up his fighting style. In this, you have normal, fast, and slow swords. The differences are so minor, it almost doesn't matter. Dante's guns thankfully have variety. Ebony and Ivory are medium strength and speed. The submachine guns are quick but don't do much damage. The shotgun is powerful up close but useless at a distance. And the rocket launcher is slow but packs a punch. Unfortunately, in most cases you can just slug it out with Ebony and Ivory, but it's nice having the options just the same. It definitely doesn't help, however, that DMC2 offers no skill upgrades like the original. Luckily, Lucia plays quite a bit differently from Dante. She fights with quick slashes, but they seem to leave her with a bit more of an opening, and are less likely to stagger. By contrast, her throwing daggers do quite a bit more damage. In addition, she has a needle-type projectile that shoot in a spread pattern. There's also grenades, but they're pretty much useless. Her bowgun is only usable underwater as far as I can tell, but it's fairly fast and powerful. The grenades can also be used underwater, but again, useless. Wait, did you say underwater level? Yep, Lucia has a few underwater levels. And you know what? They're not that bad. Yeah, you heard me. Unlike the underwater stages in the first game with their clunky first-person view and the inability to use anything other than the harpoon gun, Lucia gets to use the fast bow gun, and the game remains in the third person. She can even use her melee attacks if she so desires. This is a huge upgrade from the first game, despite what a lot of people say. As for Trish, she appears to just be Girl Dante at first glance. She only has the twin pistols and a sword, and her base combos seem essentially the same as Dante's. That is until you find out she can put away or throw her sword. Now she gets to fight hand to hand with foes, and it is so cool. This completely changes her fighting style, makes her memorable beyond just being a cameo character. Her Devil Trigger is also hilariously powerful, able to wipe out some of the tougher bosses in a nanosecond. Speaking of the Devil Trigger, this game does it in a great fashion, and it's a bit sad Capcom didn't carry the handling of it over. As you play through the game, you gain access to Devil Hearts. These fall under 3 categories, and all have pretty good effects. You can change your demon form's element between lightning, fire, and ice, increase your attack power, health regeneration, or defense, and choose between super speed or the ability to fly. I honestly love this system, and I'm a bit disappointed they dropped it after this game. That's not even touching Dante's new Majin form, which I've not had the luck of seeing for myself. Basically, when Dante's HP reaches a super critical level, just a sliver of his health bar flashes red, and if you activate the Devil Trigger, Dante transforms into a beastly, invulnerable monster that just annihilates everything. The downside to this is, you'll almost never see it, as you have to get extremely lucky not to get killed before you can use it. Or you kill everything so fast you'll never even see it. I tried to get footage of it, but... And that brings up the thing people probably hate most about this game. It's easy. Really easy. On normal mode, there's maybe 2 bosses that have any real challenge to them. Even then, they are entirely manageable. You have almost too much health for most of the game, and your Devil Trigger can turn almost anything to mush. On normal mode, the game is probably easier than Devil May Cry 3 and 4's easy modes. Well, easier than the Special Edition's easy mode in 3's case anyway. Hell, it's easier than the first game's easy mode. Hard mode does thankfully make things a little more challenging, as enemies will become more aggressive, do more damage, and use some new attacks, few of which actually require some effort to dodge. I'd say it's harder than the other game's easy modes, but still too much of a cakewalk. Unfortunately, at the time of this video, I haven't played Dante Must Die mode, but maybe it almost touches Devil May Cry 4's normal mode? So, with the low difficulty, the wonky and seemingly simplistic combat, and the mostly embarrassing boss battles, is Devil May Cry 2 worth the hate it gets? Not really. It's not as good as the first, third, and fourth. Hell, if I'm being honest, it's probably not as good as the reboot, at least at its core. However, unlike the reboot, it's not offensive to the fanbase, and it does have a lot of positive traits. It's got some great ideas, really great production values, a fantastic soundtrack, and so many awesome extras. It's a reasonably solid game, despite the flaws. And it never really falls into the territory of bad, remaining primarily in okay territory, and occasionally making the Forge into badass standing. I won't do a numerical value, as those can often be misconstrued, and I'm of a constantly changing mind when trying to assign numbers to things, so I'll simply go with whether or not I recommend it, of varying levels, of course. So, how do I feel about Devil May Cry 2? At the end of the day, I somewhat recommend it. It's flawed, and if you're looking for the hardcore challenge provided by the other 3 titles, then you'd best look elsewhere. But if you just want a reasonably entertaining hack and slash, Devil May Cry 2 is a great way to waste some time. There's so much cool content packed into this reasonably entertaining, albeit kind of broken game. If you're going for the original PS2 version, I wouldn't pay too much for it, something like a bargain bin price of $10 or so. But on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, you can get it along with the great original game and the stellar third title in the HD collection for a budget price. it's nowhere near as bad as many people paint it as. And unlike the reboot, it probably won't outright annoy you if you're a fan of the franchise, even if it doesn't connect with you, which I can understand. From an entirely personal standpoint, I don't like it as much as the others, though I liked it more than the reboot, even if I recognize the reboot as technically a better game overall. Thank you guys so much for watching. Agree with me? Disagree? Leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this and any other content, please like and or subscribe. What other content, you may ask? Well, how about you check out me screaming obscenities at Devil May Cry 3 on its insanely hard Dante Must Die mode. Or if you want something a little bit less obscenity-strewn, check out the LP of this I recorded while making this review.